Hello everybody, it's the Game Judge here. So there seems to be a consensus online that Diablo IV is dying, especially if you get on YouTube and search things about Diablo. There's a lot of videos out there that are saying that Diablo is dying and content creators may be leaving. And that may be true, but this kind of sparked a different line of thought in my mind. This made me think about the Diablo franchise as a whole, and this made me want to talk about my personal feelings about the Diablo franchise. Now, to fully understand how I feel about this, we have to go back in time when I first started playing Diablo with the very first OG Diablo game. Now, I'm not sure how many of you watching have played the first OG Diablo, but that's where I started. For me, it started on one of those old PCs when I was younger, and oftentimes we didn't have very good PCs when I was growing up due to our finances. And I remember the first Diablo was pretty easy to run on almost any PC, even the older, less powerful ones. This would have been around 1997. It's pretty crazy to think I was only 7 years old, probably a little too young to be playing such games, but it happened, and to be honest, I'm glad it did. I loved the first Diablo, and it was such a pioneer at the time for the ARPG hack and slash genre. Well, fast forward to the year 2000 and we have Diablo 2. Now this represented a true leap forward for the franchise. I mean, everything about Diablo 1 was in here, and the game was much more improved than Diablo 2. Diablo 2 was a huge success for Blizzard, shattering the Guinness World Record in 2000 for the fastest selling computer game ever, with over 1 million copies sold in the first 2 weeks. With that being said, the game was incredibly addicting for me and was a huge success for Blizzard. Now I have some pretty fond memories of Diablo 2. One particular memory I have that I'm fond of is I remember me and my brother would take shifts playing Diablo. I would be playing while he was asleep, and then he would wake up, I would go to sleep, and he would play. Now admittedly we were probably too addicted and needed some more supervision, but it's still a fond memory I have. And I also remember talking to people from California and Vegas. I mean, the game was just so interactive, and now it just doesn't feel that way anymore. And I say this to show the love that I have for the franchise. Diablo 1 and 2 will always have a special place on my heart. It helped me through some tough times in my life. Well, what did I love about the Diablo franchise? So many things. Diablo 2 had a system where you could have 8 players in your party and in your game. You could make games with weird names and it was easy to join. You can customize and sit in voice channels with your friends. I mean, the whole interface was really interactive. It felt much more social in Diablo 2 than it did in Diablo 3 and 4. The looting system was really addicting and randomized in a good way. The trading economy was super fun and encouraged trading. The PvP was amazing. I mean, I could go on and on with my list of things that I loved about Diablo 2. Now fast forward to 2012 and Diablo 3 was released, so 12 years later. And to be honest, I was very disappointed. Gone was the dark grittiness of past Diablo games. Gigantic numbers rage across the screen instead of simplistic numbers of Diablo 1 and 2. I mean, everything that I loved about past Diablo games just wasn't there for me. Now, I'm not saying Diablo 3 was a bad game, but it didn't meet the expectation that I had for the Diablo franchise. It was almost like it was designed by a different team with a different vision, and it turns out that was the case. Because in 2003, David Brevik and his team Blizzard North, who was responsible for creating the Diablo franchise and giving its vision, was fired or moved on to other projects. And this led to the scrapping of Diablo 3 and their vision. So what does this mean? It means that a whole completely different team and vision had been bestowed upon the Diablo franchise and Diablo 3. So it made sense that my expectations were not met. It wasn't the same vision. To me personally, if you take an IP that someone created, someone's art, and those responsible for making a successful piece of art like Diablo, and toss them away, then to me it's never the same, and it shows in Diablo 3. While Diablo 3 may have been inspired by the past games, it just wasn't the same for me. I am by no means saying Diablo 3 is a bad game, but to me it was never a Diablo game. The creator and their team left with their vision of the game. I think if it had a different name or as a new franchise and they went with that while they were making the game, then I'd probably be more forgiving, but it has the Diablo name attached to it. And this goes back to expectations ultimately. If you're coming to Diablo 4 in 2023 as someone who started playing the franchise with Diablo 3 versus someone who started the franchise with Diablo 1 and 2, then your expectations are going to be different. Now this segues into where we are at now with the Diablo franchise and the release of Diablo 4 recently. An identity shoved between the expectations of people who played Diablo 3 and people who played Diablo 1 and 2. If you started at Diablo 3, then you probably want more Diablo 3. And if you started at Diablo 1 or 2, then you probably want more Diablo 1 or 2. Now I'm not saying there aren't people who are in between, but I'm just speaking in generalities here. So I played past Diablo games and Diablo 4 quite a bit, and for me Diablo 4 does get some things right. I do like that they try to go back to the dark art style and the grittiness of the past Diablo games. I thought the story was well done and the soundtrack was great. They also simplified the numbers, which I did enjoy, but to be honest, the game just gets boring after a while, and some of the game design choices just aren't fun or what I would want in a Diablo game. For example, the AoE effects often cover huge amounts of the screen. By AoE effects, I mean area of effect. Things often just one-shot you out of nowhere. Monsters just compound disabling effects on your character, and there are a lot of things that you just can't outplay, and it's very unsatisfying and unfun to play, to be honest. And whoever designed the monsters to chase you to the ends of the earth? I have one question. Why? Also, why are the monsters in the dungeons harder than the final boss? I mean, the game relies so much trying to make things more difficult in ways that just aren't fun. So overall, I would say Diablo 4 is really fun from levels 1 through 70, but after that, it's boring as hell, and its weaknesses become more and more apparent. I could go on and on about Diablo 4, but I want to circle back around to the Diablo franchise as a whole. To me, it's dead, and Blizzard is a big reason to blame. When you remove the author from their book, then you get a new book, and the Diablo franchise is towing the line between identities, and therein lies its biggest problem. I think in general, a lot of these bigger games in the past are relying on their past reputation and are a shell of their former selves, with publishers gutting them, or the people with the original visions that made them successful are leaving. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think below, and if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to see you on the next one.